Okay, it's excise taxes. Let's first of all talk about what an excise tax is. An excise tax is a tax on a particular good or service. You can think of it as something that's been singled out for special treatment. When you excise or cut out something, you're carving it out, excising it. You're identifying a particular good or service, and you're going to impose a tax on it. And this tax is going to have the same effect, or not maybe the same, but a similar effect to a price or quantity control. It's going to decrease our efficiency. It's going to create some area of dead weight loss, reducing the area of producer-consumer and total surplus. So originally this is the market situation, so we know that the consumer surplus would be everything that is below this demand curve but above the market price of $4.50. That's the price that consumers are paying, and $4.50 is the price that producers receive for selling, and so their surplus is everything that is below that $4.50 but above the supply curve. And if we add consumer and producer surplus, this whole large triangle is total surplus. So there's one of two ways this tax could be stated in a way that it's imposed on producers, or so that it's imposed on the consumers of this good. It's probably more common to be imposed on the producers, and eventually we're also going to see how, even though it may be imposed on one group, both groups are likely to contribute to it, something that we call tax incidence, who bears the burden of paying for the difference between this market price and then the price which includes the tax. So let's assume then that in this particular case we're talking about imposing the $3 excise tax on the producers or sellers of this good. There are two different ways to go. The first is to go to our equilibrium price of $4.50 and then just go up $3, so we can go up to $5.50, $6.50, $7.50, and then we're going to make a little dot there. An alternative way is to start at the equilibrium price and then go back to the left until the difference between the supply and demand price is equal to the $3. So that would be here, the supply price of $3, the demand price is $6, so this is a separation of $3 worth. In any event, what we're going to do is, in this case, and I'm trying to do as well as I can here, draw our new supply curve. Remember, taxes are a negative effect on supply, shifting it to the left. So we want to go parallel and to the left. Again, the distance between the equilibrium price and the curve up here and down here is $3, but because they're straight lines and they're parallel, they're going to be equal distance all along their lengths. So that's why we could also go back from the equilibrium price to the left until this gap between the supply and the demand price was also equal to $3 and kind of created our wedge. So now that we've got that there, then of course this area is what we know as our dead weight loss, and then what we have to look at is that with the tax in place, the demand price up here at $6 means that our new area of consumer surplus is above $6 but below the demand curve, and the area of producer surplus is the supply price here of $3 after this tax. So everything that is less than $3 but above the supply curve is our area of producer surplus. That leaves this area in here. That area is the tax revenue. Okay, so it's the amount of the tax, which is $3, the difference between the supply and demand price, times the quantity of units here, which is 300. So if we multiplied $3 times 300 units, it would be equal to $900. And again, we can see that our areas of consumer and producer surplus have decreased. So has total surplus as both of those. And because of this area deadweight loss, we've seen a decrease in the number of beneficial transactions. Instead of 450 at our old equilibrium price, now we're only going to get a smaller quantity of 300 units exchanged. So a loss in efficiency due to the tax being imposed here. Now, one final thing that we can talk about is the tax incidence. Who's bearing the burden of this additional $3 tacked on to the sales of this good? Now, because of the way that I've drawn these supply and demand curves, it actually turns out that they're going to share that burden equally. We can see that because we know that originally consumers were paying $4.50, and that means producers were receiving $4.50. Since consumers are now paying $6, the difference between $4.50 and $6 is $1.50. And now producers receive only $3 rather than $4.50. So again, $1.50 less than what they used to get. So the contribution or the burden of the tax is split equally between the buyers and sellers of this particular good, because the supply and demand curves are going to have both have the same elasticity and slope here. One second, and I will show you one other possibility here. The other thing I wanted to show you is if in fact they said that this excise tax was imposed on the buyers or the consumers, how and what would that look like? Well, instead of shifting the supply curve, we would want to shift the demand curve to show that change. So again, we could start at $4.50 and go down $1, $2, $3 worth, or again go until we get a difference between the supply and demand price that is equal to $3, which would be 3 and 6. So then we're going to just draw our demand curve parallel. And I'm sorry, that's not very straight. Parallel and to the left, so that it passes through that point. And then once again, we've created that same wedge. This is the tax itself, the tax of $3, because the difference between 6 and 3 is equal to 3. And so everything else is the same. The only difference is we're showing that it was the demand or the consumers, but now we've got the same deadweight loss. And then again, consumers are paying $6, producers are receiving $3. Their new surplus is here, consumers is up here, and tax revenue is once again represented by $3 times 300 units, which is 900. So everything else the same. Just look to see whether they specify that it was an excise tax that was imposed on the buyers or consumers of the good or service, or on the sellers or producers of the good or service. Okay, that's it.